How are you going to manage that, eh? And
Exactly. But seriously, from a relationship coaching, counseling perspective, he's probably the best that I know of. Put it this way, from all the people that I know, he gets the best results, which makes, for me, makes it the best that there is out there. So I was just thinking about, again, what am I going through today, this whole week? What are my things that I've been going through? And so I said to him, you know what? Would you mind taking over the session this evening? Because I probably need to be debriefed through the session based on what we're all going through. So, and this goes from us being, from what is happening in our areas from a looting perspective, as well as, just everything that's going on around the COVID, the lockdown again, and then these guys looting and destroying, literally not even considering that there's COVID out there. So we've been in lockdown, but they've violated every lockdown rule and regulation that there possibly could be. So how are we feeling about it? So I'm going to hand over to you. You know where to start. You know what to do. And I've got my pen and notepad and my turn to process. So voila, over to you. Thank you.
Hi, guys. Obviously, when we get to what's happening in South Africa right now, you're either going to be in a state of trauma, or another way to put your trauma is that you are aggrieved, which brings a form of grief. Therefore, I think what we want to do tonight is first contextualize what we're doing. Secondly, get your approval. And thirdly, then take you through the steps I believe that you need to understand so that you can identify what's either happening to you or what's still going to happen to you, because it is a universal phenomenon. So the first thing would be is let's get a bit of contextualization. Contextualization is that whether people have been expecting or not, we all have been exposed to unplanned looting, unplanned rummaging of stores, unplanned fire set to buildings, etc. And the first feeling that comes out of it is that you feel out of control. I saw your lips there, Leonie, 100%, which means you're not in control. And this is exactly why it happens. Because you feel out of control, it now becomes from a secondary position and moves to a primary position, which means now it becomes something that you have to either own or you have to deny that it is there. So let's give an example. In Michelle and I's case, we drove down to Natal and we went past the BMW truck with the two trucks with brand new X3 BMWs. And we learned later that night that both those trucks were actually burnt. And on our way back home, we literally went past there, and the only thing that was left were literally the casings that used to be for the wheels. That's it. Totally demolished. And having people clean up and just to see the havoc around us. Now, that is what we call a external prompting in terms of, because remember, you and I would be prompted by visual stimulation. Now, that's an external force coming internal, because that is what we call is it is the igniter, or sometimes you talk about what is the key, what is the ignition, or what is the other word?
Trigger.
Or the trigger. The trigger is the favorite word that most people understand. So it could either take you back to traumas that you had in the past, like in the case of George and I. We were in a life and death situation before when we were in the Defense Force, and you'll find that men do not talk about that. And that is one of the reasons why men actually experience PSTD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because they don't deal with those feelings, those emotions. So tonight's going to be giving the information in terms of why, that you can see the importance of why we're going to do what we're doing tonight, so that you don't have to experience the post-traumatic stress disorder, because that is a mini occurrence happening to all of us right now if we don't deal with what's happening. That's why I think your wisdom, and I want to thank you for your wisdom of asking me to address the people with this. Then from the external to the internal is where your emotion ignites, but now you get an external expression. Because what has happened is that our grandson is 9 years old. Last night went to bed putting on a little bulletproof vest made out of plastic. He put on his tackies, went to bed with his tackies and his sword, because he's ready for when they come to plunder his home and ready to run. Now, what that does is now it's the inside exploding outward, because now, and no wonder Michelle's got tears in her eyes, because all of a sudden it hits home of that's why she feels like she feels. Because now not only does she feel out of control, but now also what happens is that the head has moved to the heart. Now, we've taught you guys how many times? Head, heart, hands. Now, if you go from head to hands, you may think that you've dealt with your trauma or your grievous situation. However, until you have cemented it through your heart, you will not be able to take control of the situation. So what I would like to do is to first, in our second point would be, ask your permission, maybe talk straight tonight. Is that okay with you? I need your thumbs up that I just know that you're okay with that. George, you're in. Leonie, you're in. Liz, you're in. Sonia, you're in. Wilma, you're in. Marina?
I'm sure she's in.
I just need to get you go ahead. Even in the chat, it's a yes. Now, why is this important? And this is where you need to learn that when you're going to obviously learn something tonight that you're going to use in your own family. This asking of permission is very, very important, because as it is, we're all in a state of feeling violated. If you now come and press this upon other people, it actually adds to the violation. It actually doesn't help. Like, I'll give you an example this morning. This morning I debriefed of our staff members, and one person immediately came and gave this super spiritual solution. Well, it just showed a lack of understanding of what I was busy with, because when you are in trauma, you want people to really hear how you feel. You don't need this super answer because you're not ready for it. And that just showed a lack of background and experience. That means it can be fixed. Okay, so what I would like to do tonight is to take you through the 7 stages of what you will be experiencing and you're still going to experience. And I would like you to take note of these, and then we're going to talk about where we are on this curve. So it's called the 7 stages of grief. It actually is a trauma curve. It's because you feel aggrieved. It tells you what it is. So before we do that, I'd just like to know one statement of how do you feel about the atrocities that you've seen? Leonie, I see your face first. How do you feel?
I actually wanted to ask you, how does defiance fit into this? Because me being in hospitality and having adhered to every single rule since last year, and having to see what my staff goes through and see the lack of the support, not only of government, but of the local environment. And all of a sudden seeing all these things happening the last week, I just had a defiance stood up in me and think, but why ever do I have to adhere to the rules and regulations? But so that's what I'm dealing with the last week, is that utter, or that feeling of defiance and it's not part of my being, that's not who I am, but that's the stage where I am at the moment. So thank God for this session. But yeah, defiance for me is the word that's absolutely just standing up in every day that I have to deal with currently.
One word I'm going to give you is value system. Everything of what you're experiencing is in contradiction with your value system. Now, we all have a different set of values that drive us, but you will find that there's something in your value system that is crying out, why? And it's an open loop. Now, you guys do understand zygonic. Zygonic is the ability of somebody telling you a story but not completing the story. Therefore, your brain wants to conclude it. Okay. But they also,
like every sitcom.
Every sitcom, you want to watch the next one because, oh my gosh, the ending was so good. Now, what happens is that is the positive pull of zygonic. But zygonic also has a negative to it. And that is that your mind is asking the question and it just cannot close the loop because of the trauma that is causing within you. And therefore, the only way to deal with this is to deal with the reality of identifying where you are in this process. So it's a value system that is behind it, but there's a process or a system in place that you need to decipher that will help you express where you are. Now you'll see, once I've taught you, you're going to be able to answer that question yourself. Fair. Okay, Liz, let's hear from you. One sentence in terms of how you feel.
I think I feel helpless, absolutely helpless, because you can do nothing. And our staff and our workers are involved because they've got to go home, the fear that they have, and we can do nothing. We're totally helpless.
Fair point. Vilma, how do you feel?
I'm not quite sure how I feel. I think my first thought is absolute amazement that something like this can actually happen.
Okay, try another word for amazement.
I don't know, but you see, the words seem so positive, but it's a negative feeling. Awe.
Correct. That's why I'm asking for another word like astonished, aghast.
Yeah.
Because amazement is a positive word.
Correct. Yeah.
Flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted. Nice one, George.
Yeah. It's just I don't understand that any human being made by God, and all of us are made by God, can act in a way that these people are acting.
It actually looks inhuman.
Yeah.
Inhumane. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair statement. Thank you, Vilma. George.
And it's not that they're not there's no respect of person, creed, color, nothing. This is not white on black or black on white or whatever.
Sure.
This is all out.
I'll make that, if there's time, I will go through the psychosis of what we see, because there is psychology involved with what we are seeing.
Yeah.
But what's more important for me is to add value to you personally so that you can become grounded in the situation. If there's time, I will spend 5 to 10 minutes on that psychosis. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Good. So can we park it on the shelf for now? Can you see what I did? I asked your permission again. Because asking your permission
So good.
He's
puts,
good.
You're married to the right person.
puts it on the shelf. Okay. Okay, George, how do you feel?
Anthony, I think you know how I feel. So
I want to hear. Spit it out.
I'm not allowed to swear. So
The Dawson.
huh?
Beep, 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 beep,
The
beep, beep.
Dawson.
No, it's just a frustrating. The whole situation, it makes you the M in. I am frustrated because a lot of stuff that was supposed to be done or that you want to do can now not be done because of stuff being closed, stuff being done outside. You cannot go there, you cannot do this. So they're basically restricting your freedom, because this is what they are doing now. It makes me cross. That's
Okay.
all.
You know, there's sometimes a word that is purely a language expression. The MN, I want you to say it because it's actually not swearing. It makes you feel.
The mooring.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
George.
Absolutely.
And you know, that's why I asked
On
permission.
steroids.
I asked permission tonight because we need to hear how you feel, and that is one of them. And that is an Afrikaans expression. It's actually not swearing at all. Okay. Fully accepted. Everybody in agreement?
I see the dictionary says it means mother. Yeah.
True. That's where it comes from the root. Yak, how do you feel?
Anthony, maybe I must say at the end, if you want, honestly, from me, I don't know if I was prepared before this, but with the COVID, I've been speaking to so many people about this same thing, that from my side, I'm I know I can't do anything about it, and I've given it in God's hands.
But how does it make you feel? I hear that. I hear you speaking to people, but you have an emotion. How do you feel?
Okay, a good question. So again, I'm different than other people. It makes me feel like I see people around me frustrated, and then I think, why? Because if you trust in God, you don't have to be like that. And so yeah, that is my honest answer. But I also see the anger in other people because of sometimes things happen close to them, and at this stage, it's nothing. There is nothing close to me that has happened.
I was going to say, I want you to think in the situation where Michelle and I were in the middle of it, and our children are directly involved.
I've heard that from Shalane, and
sure, but
and
now I'm asking you, Billy.
Yes.
Imagine your daughter is in a situation like that, and she needs your help. How do you feel?
Yes. Then I agree with everybody else. Yes.
Because you see now what has happened is that you're taking it from that which seems distant because you were not directly involved to making it personal. Okay.
Yes.
And this is the first step towards dealing with the situation is to make it personal. Okay, because if you keep it up there like it's not me, it's them, you actually will never get to the point of absorbing the steps that we're going to be teaching just now. Okay, now you're in a position to receive it. Thank you for that. Okay.
Thanks.
Tona de Toy, talk to us.
Good evening, everyone. Well, personally, I feel helpless, angry, and worried. Reason why I say worried is if this is happening in our country right now, what future is there for the kids?
Exactly.
They see this going on, happening. What's going through their minds of what's right and what's wrong? Yes, we teach them, but you're still worried. What's going to happen with the children of this country?
Yeah.
Anger is how can people do this to innocent human beings that's also suffering, but they are trying their best to cope with what they've got or what's going on.
So how does that make you feel in assessing that?
Angry, worried.
Okay, that's good. I'm happy with that. Thank you for now, Sonia. Marina, how do you feel?
Okay. Obviously, all of the above, but I would also add disappointment that people are able to go to these extents, doing harm to each other, killing people, all those terrible things that's happening. So yeah, I would obviously agree with all the above, but yeah, you feel disappointed in everything you hear and see.
Now, can I ask you just to dig a little bit deeper when you said all of the above? If you have to choose one or two from all of the above, what would those be apart from being disappointed?
Also, worried.
Okay.
And yeah, angry, frustrated.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That gives me a little bit better picture about Marina than just what I heard in the last one. Dr. Michelle, how do you feel?
Okay. Effing pissed off, to say the least. Okay. Okay. So that's the English version of the MI. Okay. I am bewildered and at the absolute ability to destruct and destroy things that don't belong to you, and get a mindset that you can actually go and do stuff like that because you feel it's your legal right. It blows my mind, and to personally experience the trauma of my grandkids going through being trapped between, they can't get out. I mean, and now trying to think, where can I get a helicopter to get them in? They only have 3 days in that whole complex. They've worked it out that between everybody that's there, there's 3 days worth of food for them. How long is this going to last? Are they going to eat? Is the water going to be cut? Are they going to get water? Where do they go? They can't get in and out. And it's the absolute fear that I feel so freaking helpless that I don't know what to do, because if they do see a helicopter coming in there, what are they going to do? Are they going to try and destroy this helicopter? Then it destroys other people's opportunities of getting out there. What are the options? Where the hell is the defense force? Why are they being only deployed so slow? Why is the strategy so slow? And being a person who's a doer, I can't get over the slowness that you're waiting for shit to be destroyed and burned and destructed, that it is impossible. You take Impangeni, for example, impossible to rebuild it, and you allow it. And this is the beginning. And that scares the shit out of me. How can I get my family out of this country? And yes, we can hand it to God. Yes, we can hand it to prayer. And yes, but there's a real side of it, and there's the spiritual side of it. And God is allowing this to happen. So are we going to stay and say, okay, I just have to be a casualty of God's war? Must my children be a casualty? Must my daughter-in-law get raped? Must my children be, my grandchildren being cut with a panga before I think, okay, it's all in God's will. I get it. I understand the spiritual side of it. But it still doesn't stop me from like the absolute fear that we're helpless. Yes, we're here safe where we are right now, but they're not. I can't get to them. I can't get someone to them. And that's the reality. I mean, who wants to have a 9-year-old, the rest of his life is traumatized because he must go to bed with his tackies on, his rucksack on his back, because he might have to flee his home? And what about all the African children that are wondering what the hell are their parents doing, running through the freaking streets, coming back with this, laughing, getting drunk, all the rest of it. Now you've got all these little African kids that have been exposed to this, and they're in trauma on their side. It's bullshit. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Yes,
Can I thank you? I just want to be a husband just for a quick second. Thank you.
Liz wants to say something.
So yes, that's how I feel.
I also thought, when I looked at some of this stuff today, how many of my ex-students or children that I taught are part of these kids running around breaking down stuff?
Yes.
And I'm thinking of their families, their moms, their dads, their mogogos. It is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
Anthony, and your feelings?
I feel indignant. That's my biggest one. Apart from feeling out of control, I feel indignant. Okay. Now, what we've done is you've heard the difference between first line experience and second line experience, primary and secondary. Out of the whole group, who had primary experience? If you had to vote, who's the one person that stands that had primary experience of what's happening? Who's that person?
Michelle.
Michelle.
Without a doubt.
Dr. Michelle and yeah.
Now, can you see? Now, here is the truth. The way that she just expressed herself is healthier than all of the rest of us together, because the rest of us did not experiencing it first line. We're experiencing it second line, which means it will hit us later on. We just don't realize it, but it will come out in ways that we don't understand. I saw today, with one action, what was inside of me, because I am a man that can control my emotions. Ask George. We went to go and take the walks for a dog.
The dogs for a walk.
Okay, there we go. Can you see my head is ahead already?
Doggies, did you walk?
That's right. And I warned my dog to behave. And today I disciplined. But the way I disciplined,
Tessa, we didn't know this.
that dog was listening the entire way. So I came back to one thing: discipline is good. But anyway, but I know in my heart of hearts, there was like a something inside of me that I need to watch out for, because people who hold in emotions, You know, as daai goed spat, sit dit teen die mure vas en dis nie chocolates nie. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So you
all
need to
Afrikaans people will
lash out at
understand that.
something. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right. So can I continue to the training for tonight then? Because I had to just get everybody to express where they think they are. Now you're going to be able to plot where you are really. Right. So I'm going to bring up the stages of the grief cycle because you are aggrieved and you're in trauma right now. So here we are. So first I'll just give you the 7 stages and then I'm going to just quickly drill down into them.
Can you see them? Just ask.
Can you guys see the screen? Yes or no?
Liz, you
Yes.
good?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right. So the 7 stages are, firstly, you'll see we start from the normal functioning side and then we spiral down and we loop back until eventually we get to returning to meaningful life. But in that process, you normally go through the following 7 large steps: shock and denial. Step 2, anger. Step 3, depression and detachment. Step 4, dialoguing and bargaining. Step 5, acceptance. And then 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
No, 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 is an empowerment.
Okay, and then 7 is the empowerment. So let's take them one by one. Now, first you have to understand, look at the actual loop. It wasn't just a little curve that goes from the left to the right. It goes down and then loops back, which is an illustration of what happens to you and I because emotions are involved. And that is that you might think you go to number 3, but whoop, it's like an elastic band that pulls you back and you're back at number 2. So the first one is shock and denial. But now we all respond differently. In shock and denial, we have avoidance, confusion, fear, numbness, and blame. Depending on how you put together, it's going to depend on what you do in this stage of shock and denial. Now, most of us are in shock and denial, whether we like it or not, but we treat it differently. Vili treated it with avoidance at this point in time because it was still second line for him. Okay, and because he's also a trained mentor. So what happens is we have the ability to temporarily take ourselves out of the situation until it becomes first line with one of our children. Then we'll actually feel the impact of it in a different way. Then confusion, fear go together. Numbness is the danger one. The one that you feel stunted, you numb, you don't know what to do. Blame sounds bad, but is actually the most healthy out of all of those. Because if you can apportion blame, at least you move the feeling to the next level, away from you. So in terms of managing emotions, you get 2 ways. 1, you swallow it and you internalize it, and 2, you deplore it externally away from you. Blame is actually the positive part of shock and denial there. Whereas avoidance is negative, confusion is negative, fear is negative, numbness is negative, but blame is positive. Because somebody has to take accountability. So that's the shock and denial. But the part of blame that is wrong is all of a sudden you start at home blaming your partner for something that is silly. You didn't put on the kettle or you didn't boil the water hot enough. It actually are signs, those are signs showing that you're stuck in shock and denial. That has nothing to do with the boiling of the water or putting on the kettle. That has everything to do with how you are feeling with a situation that is actually facing you. Okay.
Rejection.
Correct, because you all want to protect ourselves. Now, we all know, what's it called, reticular, is when you see something.
Yeah, reticular tensions.
I think it's RAT. Just for the moment, it's slipped my mind. And that is that, Michelle will tell us this now, but that is that, for instance, if you, for instance, bought today a red Mini, that function, immediately you see a red Mini and a red Mini and a red Mini. You just can't help it. You notice all the other red Minis around you. Okay. Michelle will just get it first now.
Okay.
It's just that my tongue got twisted. Okay. Now, after shock and denial, then you move down to anger. Now, is anger good or is it bad? It depends. Look at what it looks like. Frustration, anxiety, irritation, embarrassment, shame. There are two there that are very harmful. Frustration is good because at least it's a feeling being released. But anxiety is like taking a butterfly, putting it in a jar and screwing it on. It will live for now, but the oxygen will disappear after a while. That's anxiety. Irritation is good because it's fuel. Embarrassment is bad because you're swallowing it. Shame is bad because you're swallowing it. Now, again, this has to do with either what they call left brain, not left brain, right brain, introvert, extrovert. Okay. The RAS, reticular activating system. It's your RAS is what we talk about. All right.
Yep.
Is that all of us have the reticular activating system in our brain. Now, when we see, and here's the thing, what do you actually do with Facebook? You look at a video, you look at a video, you look at a video, and before you can help yourself, you can't stop watching those videos. You actually neglect your local duties because something in your mind says, what else? Because your mind is looking to see how horrific this is. And that also is already part of shock and denial into anger. It's the frustration and the irritation that is making you look at the videos because you want to cry injustice, but you can't. And then the part that is harmful is embarrassment and shame. Now, how does anger express itself in embarrassment? Isn't that a very good thing to think about? This is why people start all of a sudden have a red face most of the time, because this is what they do. They don't know how to articulate it out. So what they do is the embarrassment and the shame that is connected with it keeps them captive. It's like a nut that's inside a shell. You can hear the nut, but it can't come out until somebody breaks the shell. That's what happens with embarrassment and shame. Okay, so shock and denial goes to anger. Now we go to depression and detachment. Will you necessarily become depressed? Yes, you will. Others might just not see it and you might not recognize it. But sometimes others will see that something is wrong. Depression and detachment is the point where you can look at my face and say to me, what's wrong? No, I'm fine. No, what's wrong? There's just, that spark is not there. It means that I may have already gone down into depression because I'm absorbing it, making it, although I've got no control over it, feeling sorry, guilty, angry, or whatever it is towards the fact that I can do nothing about it. And then the detachment will set in terms of you become aloof, is the word, because you are depressed and because you are detached. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, that's where I'm sitting in the cycle. I'm going to be, once we come through this whole thing, we'll ask everybody is, I'm already at depression and detachment with the situation. Okay. What feelings come there? The overwhelmed. Blast.
Which is uneasiness.
Uneasiness. Lack of energy. Helplessness. Okay, the overwhelming is normally because you feel out of control. The uneasiness, like it's actually blah, like blah. That's what it is. Okay, it's like remember when you've eaten something too much, you really feel sick. That's really what it is. You feel uneasy because you actually need to take Enos or something. Lack of energy. Now that's a big one because people are normally energetic and all of a sudden they feel like nothing. They just sit around. That's a sign of depression. Depressed people that have really experienced it before will understand when I say that you just want to stay in bed and people don't get it because you feel safe and secure in your bed. Okay, and it could be because one of the other things of feeling helplessness and you're detaching yourself from the world, so it is a way. But now I'm in the middle of this thing and I want you to see something. That loop that goes has got a loop going backward again. It can literally yank you back. You're in depression, detachment, which is more civil of nature, but then all of a sudden You go back up to anger. Yes, but now you are angry. Now you are really frustrated. So what happens is the moment you get what we call the loop reaction, it's like a knee-jerk reaction, it intensifies the emotion. This is what you have to ask yourself is, do I see intensified information or a situation? This is where all of a sudden the guy goes from depression to attachment, go all the way back to blame. And now all of a sudden he blames his father for this and his mother for that, and why society and the previous leaders. It's really feeling out of control, but it is accentuated because you have looped backwards. Okay. Now, as we've gone through the dip, so what happened is that you're going to go through shock, anger, depression, detachment. You're going to go up and down like a little yo-yo all the time until you go through this curve. Then is one of the most dangerous things that can happen. And this is where most counselors, mentors, church leaders, and leaders come second, because they think they are coping until they hit this stage, dialoguing and bargaining, because you bargain with yourself. Nah, it's not that bad. Now I can cope with. God is in control. Yes, Billy?
Sorry, just before you go to dialogue and bargaining, have you also got positive and negative ones of those four, like the previous ones?
Okay. The positive one there is where you can actually admit your uneasiness. Blah. When that can be actually voiced. The overwhelming is positive if you can actually say it. But normally the lack of energy is the negative and the helplessness is the negative. So those two, the first two were the positives and the bottom two are the negatives.
Thank you.
Obviously we all know that over a period of time that those which are in the negative are more harming than the person who deals with it. Okay. It's like a time bomb. It just goes tick, tick, tick. When it goes off, it's ugly. Right. Now the dialogue and bargaining, because you start bargaining with yourself. It's not that bad. You start saying to yourself, you know, this is Africa. Get tough. Get real with real life. You even hear dialogue and bargain with God, by the way. Let's look at what are some of the points under it. Reaching out to others. That's a positive. Desire to tell one story. Huge positive. Struggle to find meaning for what has happened. Negative. Because you just cannot put your finger on it.
That's when you chat to God.
That's when you start chatting to God. And now this is the dialogue and the bargaining that happens. Now, the dialogue and bargaining for some people can literally be a step and you're through to the last one, which will be acceptance, or you can stay there for quite a long time, depending on who you are. Do you know who battles here the most? Is the melancholy. Remember when we talk about the DISC analysis, DISC? All right. You're going through this. Now, George, obviously, I already saw your face there, but I'm sure that Tessa is also there in the background. So just to get everybody up to speed, Tess, can I ask you just to come and tell us how you feel? Because obviously, I'm just looking at George's face. Yes, Tess, can you quickly come and tell us?
Unmute.
Oh, there you are.
Unmute. Unmute yourself, George.
There you go.
I did. Just hang on.
Okay.
Don't let the frustration come to me.
I'm going to blame you for getting old. But Tessa, how do you feel? What are your feelings?
I am surrounded by darkness. And it is pulling me down and I cannot get out. I am cross and disillusioned. I feel disillusioned in the world and in everything that's happening around me. I cannot believe what is happening. I cannot believe that humanity can do what they are doing.
So a disbelief is your biggest one. The disbelief that this can be happening. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, because that also goes in terms of struggling to find meaning for what has happened. That's why your name came up here. Is that just why? And of course, we can get stuck in the why place for quite a while. Okay. Now, I really want to thank you for sharing that as well, because now I feel that you're also part of the process of knowing what we're trying to do here tonight. Now, guys, the breakthrough is when it comes to acceptance, accepting the situation, accepting that you have either identified going shock and denial, going through the anger, being depressed and detached, and then that you will in the dialogue in the bargaining stage. And you will literally, what's the word? Oscillate to and fro. It's going to happen. And it will happen till eventually there's acceptance. Now, acceptance has exploring options and a new plan in place. Both of those are positive. So acceptance is really where you have said time to move on. We call that just about reintegration, okay, which is the last one. So you can put a line between dialogue and bargaining and acceptance, because that's really where things change. Now, people often ask me, how long does this take? Well, for some people, it's one day. For some people, that could be 1 year. Seriously, you can sit with this for 9 months, especially if it was frontline defense, like in the case of Michelle. This is going to be real and in her face. She might even dream about this. And maybe I should deal with that in terms of part of acceptance. What do you do if you do start dreaming about this stuff? Because now you're traumatizing yourself again. Because remember, it's in your subconscious doesn't know the difference. Your subconscious is going to make you feel that you are in it. You literally have to bind that off yourself and do your prayers before you go to bed and cover yourself by the blood of Jesus. There's no other way. All right? Take spiritual control, because you can, because remember, you have the spirit man of God in you that can actually exercise the controls. You can pray for yourself and you can bind them. All right. That's a teaching on its own. I just wanted to mention the solution. Now, acceptance, exploring the options, such as, well, could we not deploy the army sooner? Should there not be a leader in place that can say, shoot to kill? Whatever the answer is, look at Michelle, yes. Whatever the answer is, but exploring those options becomes the new plan that you have in place. And because of that, there's acceptance. But do you really fully accept? In my experience with people that I've helped through this, there's maybe a 98% acceptance, but there's always that 2%, because we're human and we default to our human behavior because we are human. All right. Then seeking the meaning, returning to life. Let's look at the top. Empowerment, security, self-esteem, and meaning. Now, if you guys look at what Mocking Mind has done for us as a group, we all have given testimonies of feeling empowered, feeling that this is a secure team where we can be. Our self-esteem has grown to the next level. Meaning to life. You feel that you can integrate and you can actually add value to other people's lives. So once you can start expressing yourself with those emotions of empowerment, which is positive, security, which is positive, self-esteem, which is positive, meaning, which is positive, now you can see that you have literally tilted over to that side. Now I've given you the cognitive information. Now I'm going to do something that is very important. And that is, again, that's why I asked your permission in the beginning. I want you now to go from the cognitive stuff that you heard here in your head, and I want you to literally put this recipe into your heart and say, what's the real truth? Where am I now? Now, each one is going to get a second chance to talk, because now you can identify. And if you choose, for instance, anger, I need you to choose one or two things in there so that I can just have the liberty of helping you how to deal with that. And Leonie, I'm going to put you on the spot because I started with you. So you're going to be first. Looking
Love
at
it.
loop, where are you now that we've explained it?
I'm looking at, so I'm going to read here. I think I'm quite experiencing the loop reaction mostly between with the dialogue and bargaining, where I struggle to find meaning for what has happened. And then the acceptance of exploring options, because I see the impact in my stuff. Sorry, I get emotional about this stuff. In hospitality, our staff, we take care of 24 families, and then just seeing how we adhere to everything, and then going through all the anger, the disillusionment, and then things like the last week happening, and realizing that you still have to make it work, whether you struggle to understand it, because there's people you need to look after. And then we've got, on the property, we've got a reading center for the farmers' children in the valley, where we assist them with reading and things like that. And then a clothing bank as well. So what we've started doing, and we're just realizing we're not going to get help from other people, because that's the impact on my people. And then some of the farmers as well that's been severely affected. And then just deciding this morning with the snow, and it's so cold, that we're just going to take the clothes and we're going to start dishing it out. We're not going to sell it. We're going to dish it out to whoever is cold. So that whole, that's why I say I'm looping, what's that word? Loop reaction still between I still struggle to find the meaning of all of this and the impact that we see.
When I do that, I want to ask you a question. Now, you've just given us a nice scenario of we, explaining your work, etc. Now I want you to talk to me again, but you must start with I and put yourself in the situation. Try again.
Being in managing the lodge, it makes me feel responsible.
Good.
For the families, and being able to see the lack of help not coming forth from the TERS and the UIFs and everything, and with hospitality being at the state that it's in, not being able to give them or assist them in the way that we usually do that, and me having to make decisions, and so far I've got rid of my middle management and kept all the lower income guys, because I feel responsible. I see them walking past the lodge, not having food, being hungry, not being warm. Okay. So yeah, that's the where I feel that we've been failed in terms of my hands were chopped off. Mm-hmm. But now it is, what can I do to change their circumstances without creating another monster of a rearing monster of what do they expect? And so yeah.
Now you see what that I is unleashed here is your compassion. You truly have the gift of compassion. And you don't have to answer right now, because I know who you are. Okay. Vilma, where are you on this loop?
I think where I am at is that I'm a doer, I'm a planner, I want resolution. And where I'm at is that I want to go for the cause and kill. That's me.
Yeah.
But identify the stage on that loop for me where you are.
I'll have to quickly.
Shall I put it on for you? You can have a look at it.
There's anger still.
You just put it on again.
Sorry,
I've got it.
There it is.
Okay. Then I've got to put my brilletjies up so I can see. There's no shock and denial. Now I'm past that one. I think there's definitely an anger. I don't do depression well. I would add to that depression passivity, which is very dangerous.
Yeah, this part of helplessness. I agree with you.
Yeah. And it's the most dangerous part of the loop as well, before you start going up, if you go up.
So if you say you're stuck in the anger, which part of the anger? Just give me one word there.
Let me see. I think frustration would most describe it. Mm-hmm. And I seem to swing between the frustration and it sounds this again, but then I'm a weird person, reaching out to others, but in a sense of, I've got a group in my wound care network, It's called Nurses Heart to Heart.
Mhm.
And I started it a couple of years ago, and I've just encouraged people to talk. And the things that come out, and I think just the talking, the catharsis of it all, I think helps people to look through all the rubbish and see a ray of light somewhere. Because there's
Okay.
got to be, because God is in control, there's got to be a ray of light. So it's the searching for that light. And I think in that way, I would say reaching out to people in the positive sense.
Well, I want to
But
compliment you with one
I
thing.
want to kill Jay-Z. That's what I want to do.
The one thing, because you're a sister in the care, you understand the catharsis, and you understand that it's distilling from what is impure to getting what is pure and taking the
Yep.
impure away. And
Yep.
I think what you have learned over the years is to actually, in these circumstances, to separate that which is negative and poisonous to that which is actually bringing healing. And I can see it's become a way of living for you. Well done.
Yeah, it is. But I tell you, with God's help, I do things that I would never normally do myself.
100%.
In a
Well done.
worldly sense, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Tessa, can I ask you next? Where are you on this cycle? Now that we have given it names.
Detachment and helplessness.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit
Helplessness,
old. I
yeah.
couldn't hear.
Helplessness.
Helplessness, and that's part of the
Helplessness, yeah.
and detachment. Okay, 100%. So obviously you might stay there for a while, Tess, because of who you are in terms of your behavioral type. And it's okay if George copes with this quicker, because remember, no human being is the same. And allow yourself to take longer. Okay, so that is my message to you. Allow yourself to take longer. Quite in order. Okay. George, for you, where are you?
Well, I think I've passed all those phases. I'm through with dialogue and bargaining, and I sorted myself out. I've done my acceptance. I ordered my ammo. It's already gonna pick it up tomorrow, so I'll be prepared for that.
You've got your
So
plan.
whoever comes this side, I'm ready. If they want to come here and fuck around in my house, they will get what they deserve. So this is what I did. I made sure that the children are fine. Wayne is sorted out. So I did my side of my, I did my dialogue with myself, and I bargained with myself already. And I decided this is the way I'm gonna get myself prepared. And I did that. It took a while to get the ammo I'm looking for, but I got it, and I'll be picking up tomorrow, and I'll be ready. And that is where I am at the moment. So yeah.
Love it, George. I think can we give out your cell phone number, because you're the best neighbor to have.
And he's really my neighbor, Leonie, so I'm very happy.
He's really our neighbor. Thank you, George, for sharing that. Okay. So all I can say to you is that in terms of your experience as a Defense Force colonel, you obviously know how to deal with trauma, and I'm not surprised that you have gone through the curve and you already have your plan. So that just shows experience, but it also shows because you've done it again and again and again, that's why you're able to just say, this is what I'm doing and I'm moving on. This is my way of coping. And I'm sure that your damsel in distress there can only look at you with a big Bambi eyes and say, that's my man. Okay. Good for you guys.
Did he get ammo for your gun, Jess? Pew, pew.
Okay. Willie, you next. Tell us, where are you on this curve? Unmute.
Don't you want to ask the other people first?
Willie, your face is next. Go for it.
I'm also at the. The first word that I saw is empowerment, and I feel that I want to support other people, and I must say we opened the Zoom, when I saw Michelle's face, I just wanted to, I feel so sorry, especially for her, because I can see in her face and I can see the pupils. And yeah, that is, yeah, I just feel my heart goes out, especially for you, but also for all the people that have that close relationship with people. But I feel that empowerment word, that's where I am on the curve. And what I've learned is, what I realized in other people, that loop going back, that makes a lot of sense for me. And that is something that I'll take away from today.
Perfect. Now, what I'm going to offer you, Willie, because obviously you've learned how to cope, and because you are so other person centered, and that is one of your strengths, you immediately look at what am I doing to add value. However, when you personally loop back, I'm a cup of coffee away. Okay.
Good question.
Done. Liz, your next turn. Go.
I am floating between anger as well as the depression, because the helplessness is actually becoming overwhelming, because I am at home and I'm basically isolated and I can do nothing. And Wayne's got to go out and drive, as well as the children and things like that. So I start getting anxious when it's time for my son to come home. How are the children? So I'm getting emotional now, but it's really frustrating because you can do nothing. And Wayne,
Yeah.
a bit of water.
Good for you.
We're responsible for 12 families that we take care of. So when Leonie said that they're responsible, we've got the same. And our lady comes and she tells us, and our workers at the factory, they burned down their little spaza shop. They raided the butchery. There's no bread. There's nothing for them there. So Wayne went out to the shop. I asked him, go and do shopping. He gets there. There's no bread. There's nothing. So what now he starts thinking proactively, how are we going to get stuff to provide? And it is crazy. He says people were buying trolleys full of stuff, but it is like, what are we going to do next to get through the situation? So I must still deal with this being in isolation at home because I'm not going out, and he's got to do everything, and I've got to wait until they come back and then make the next decision and make the next decision to go through that. So it's tough.
And part of your fear is, will he come back?
I know he will come back.
Okay.
But what would he have seen? Because we are guarded and protected.
Yeah.
We are God's favorite people.
Remember to debrief your beautiful husband. I mean, he is such an awesome human
He's
being.
sitting, yeah.
That's good. Remember to debrief him when he comes back. Let him tell you what he saw, because that is important for you to be part of the solution as he speaks with you. Okay.
Yes, we do.
100%.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Love you, Wayne. Okay, Marina, let's hear. Where are you on this curve?
Okay, yeah, I'm unmute. It's a sort of a mix about, I can say, anger, not so much anymore, but I think more a feeling of overwhelmed and helplessness, because there's not really something you can do. You don't know of people that you can help. I'm also a person who likes to help other people. Okay. And that brings that frustration that you can't do really anything. I won't fall into a depression about that. That's not me also, but yeah, you do feel helpless that you can't help other people.
Okay, I'm going to help because there's two people that spoke about helplessness. I might as well give the solution right now. One of the cures is to actually go and do like the good old, go and write out a few Bible verses to deal with helplessness. For instance, God is in control. we are more than conquerors. We are more than conquerors. So what you want to do is go and find 7 to 10 verses that you write down and that you literally affirm every day so that you can feel better. Okay? There's a cure for it. Sonia de Toy?
Yeah, I think I'm swinging between anger and depression and detachment. Reason being is I've also got friends and family in KZN, and sitting here and see what they are going through. And there's absolutely nothing that you can do. Nothing. And with the anger side, you're getting frustrated because there's nothing that you really can do. And the smallest of things that triggers me, I get extremely irritated. Extremely. The smallest thing. A dog that barks outside triggers me, especially when I'm busy and I'm concentrating.
And also noise around you. Am I right, Sonia, that you hear noise more than normal?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, that is natural, by the way. You will be irritated with a phone that rings too long and the noises that are around you, by the way, okay?
Yes, that's exactly how I feel. The smallest of things.
Okay, so one way for people like you and like me is for us to actually go beyond the noise. Let me give you an example. If you really feel it's getting to you like this noise, you actually make a noise that supersedes the other noise once. That sort of get it out. It's a form of coping, okay? This fact of reality.
Okay. Great, thanks, Doc.
100%. Okay. Last person to ask is, now that you've seen this cycle, I don't have to ask you where you are. I need to ask you, now that you've been part of this session and you were able to share it with your friends, how do you feel after you had that opportunity?
Well, I feel, that's exactly. So I am bouncing between quite a few. Like, for example, the absolute anger and frustration and the anxiety more for me was on the anger scale for me with regards to I can't help my family and friends. And then it was that sense of being overwhelmed. I never felt helpless because I thought I've got to do something about the situation. So automatically I started reaching out to people who has a helicopter, who can drop off food, who can do this. So automatically started trying to make plans. So I was bouncing literally between those, like almost like a wheel spin within an hour. So going through all of them, and then afterwards, now you just sort of feel, okay, there's nothing more I can do. And now it's going back to what is trying to identify that maybe the little bit that you've added, or just the fact that you're speaking to family, I feel a little bit in control of the situation. So by me having people phone me and say, listen, I've got a helicopter, it's going to cost you R1 million, we can evacuate 12 people. My next thing is like, okay, where do I find R1 million? So it's helping me to process by jumping into that. I wouldn't say it's acceptance, but it's making a new plan to make sure that I can get into accepting that they're okay.
It's actually exploring the options.
So it really was jumping around. So I've been jumping around. I would not say that so I think I'm still confused as to why it's happened. So in shock and denial, I'm still totally bewildered why this is happening. And to what extent it is happening, and the hurting of all the people around us. So I think right now, because I'm spiraling, I'm jumping between all of them within a short space of time. So and I just realized that from our session this morning in the workplace, speaking to just being able to voice, this is how I'm feeling, how much better, how much more I was able to cope, okay, and how more rational it became. So and that's what I thought, if you could take us through this whole process and know that we are going to all go through, because we're grieving this has happened to our country. We're grieving that people could do this to each other, and it is something we need to go through, and we are going to eventually return to the meaningful life. And it's like, right now, is that possible? But we need to try and make it possible within our own world. But maybe we're not going to change the country, but we need to try and make it possible in our own worlds. And that's my share.
Thank you. I'll just say something personal, and that is that I can still understand the looting on day one when everybody is hyped up, and the psychosis of, because we're going over time.
Yeah.
I need permission, 5 minutes. The psychosis here is the lack of vision. The Bible says where there's a lack of vision, our people will perish. And this is exactly what is happening. Because the psychotic part that I don't understand is, why would you go on day one and loot? Because you're in the zone. Because remember, the brain actually cuts off at a certain point, and they just don't see what they're doing because they can't plan ahead. Imagine growing up sitting on your mother's back. So as long as you can actually drink milk, breast milk, you're on the back of your mother, your vision is here. That's why people, the battle to get across a road, because the vision is impaired. So it truly plays a role. But why would you go back the second day and now set that building alight? And my humanness, I'm battling with that. The indignity of that. I can understand in the moment the looting, but why go back the next day and now burn down the center? I don't get it. Okay, that's the part of me that's there's an indignation that I'm battling to cope with. So here's your homework. To conclude this, for the next 3 days, you can choose to do this or choose not to do it, but this is how you will know whether you are making progress or not. Right now, you are going to give yourself on each one of these levels a score out of 10. How badly am I in shock and denial? Okay, I can tell you that my score is literally a 9 or 10 out of 10. How bad is your anger tonight? And give yourself a score. How bad is your depression? How bad are you in dialogue? Give yourself a score out of 10 out of all of those big steps. Then break down whatever's been given there. Perform the weighting. If it's shock and denial, you want to know where's the weight tonight. And you sort of show that your highest one tonight is fear, and your second one is confusion. When you go back tomorrow night, you're going to just redo your rating out of 10 to see if it is moving along or whether you're jumping back. And then as you then do the weight exercise of where you are at the bottom of the, take anger, frustration, anxiety, irritation, embarrassment, and shame, you want to see, is it still the same ones, and is it still at the same level? Like tonight, my frustration is really an 8 out of 10. I'll be honest. So 8 out of 10 for me tonight. And my irritation is at 10. So I need to look at that for the next 3 days, every day, every night at the same time, to say, where am I now? Because if the irritation does not diminish or go down from 10, I need to know, I need to find an outlet to talk about this more, because I'm not dealing with it. Because the score should go down in 72 hours, which is 4 days. Okay. In 4 days, you should be able to cope with this grieving cycle. You will still grieve it, but it's the 80-20 principle, having dealt with 80% of it and dealing with the other 20% over an extended period of time. So that is me. Any questions as we finish off? Yes, Billy. Sound, Billy?
Sorry, not a question, but from a health side, I think Liz showed us a very important thing now. I don't know if you could remember what she did.
Drink water.
Rehydrate. I just see now in point number 1, 2, and 3, shock and denial, anger, and depression. Your body uses a lot more fuel, water.
Well,
and for your normal body functions to recover, we need to hydrate.
Thank you, Ellie. That's very helpful. We appreciate that. Awesome. Anybody else? Last question, last peep.
no, all good.
Well, guys, that's it then for tonight. Thank you that we can go through this together as
Thank
a team.
you. No.
Thank you.
Because yes, Wilma, see your vingertjie opdaal.
Sorry, and I want to ask permission. Would it be possible to share this video wider than the group?
I think so. Absolutely.
If we can help people, got my blessing.
I think this is so useful for
Awesome.
so many people to listen to.
With pleasure.
With pleasure. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good stuff. Well, to all of you guys, To our team captain, thank you for leading us. We love
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so
And,
much, guys.
Thank you for mocking mine, because my mind is mocking me right now.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your openness and honesty, and really appreciate it. And sleep well. And may your families all be protected and covered by the
And
blood of the
thank
Lamb.
you for your vulnerability, Michelle.
Thank you, Wilma.
Can I ask
you that-
permission? Can I ask permission to pray for all of us tonight? Is that
Yeah, let's
okay?
go for our
Amen.
families. Yeah.
Heavenly
Amen.
Father, I just bring
Definitely.
the group before us, Lord,
Mm.
in the name of the Jesus Christ himself, the healer from Nazareth. You say, by your stripes we are healed. I ask for a healing of this nation. Father, we are aggrieved. We are perplexed because we cannot understand that people can act so barbaric. And there is this wave after wave of seeing where more they can loot. But Father, I can just see you on the cross saying, forgive them. They do not know what they do. And I just pray that we will have acceptance in our hearts. And Lord, as difficult as it is, we pray for forgiveness. We pray for grace. And I ask for protection of our family members. And I ask that our family members will go through understanding they must go from their heads to their hearts. May they speak through their hearts. May they connect. May they make sure that they establish relationships and pick up relationships that have been out of line for a while, but to mend those and to stand united and to be stronger together as families. Lord, you say that family is the cornerstone of society, is that fulcrum upon which it rests. And I just pray for each one, everyone on this call. Bless us, keep us, and may we stay in the hollow of your hand. And in his name, amen, amen, amen.
Amen,
amen.
everyone. God
Thank
bless
you,
everyone.
guys. God bless you all.
Bye-bye.
Mwah. Night,
God
night.
bless.
See you next week.
Love you lots.
Bye. Love you guys.